We got Barney's, we never seen any smoke, couldn't sniff it out.
Maybe one is that once we were up in the ceiling piles up there because there's a unit up there. It couldn't relate it to it, couldn't get any extra heat, couldn't get on it. And I don't know where else it could be coming from.
I thought something started on that.
Yeah. It's enough to make the lighting out on me down.
Time to drop the bar.
We got to be prepared for that. I know. Like, you should have put up the bar.
We almost do the draft in the same before we do it. Keep up the numbers, but still a way to still go 9:30.
I can tell you that question.
Yeah, I'm just going to see what it usually is.
That's cool, yeah.
Is it my attorney?
That's what it is.
Is it attorney? Yes, it is attorney.
I'm right here. Well, I'm sorry I got held up with a little bit of orange cones going up and down the road.
Those are your orange cones.
I know, loving it. Somebody said that that was our new state flower. Yeah. But no, that's good. So anyway, I think what we need to do today is give you an update from the general as to where we are, and then the other thing I want to give you some exciting news that maybe you know parts of that Chris Hamilton can maybe better describe from the coal side. So I think, General, you go.
Okay, sir.
We'll just direct this over to you.
Good morning, everybody. So as I mentioned yesterday, priorities right now are to make sure that we have the appropriate staffing processes in place to get this streamlined and back to where we need it to be. Primary focus on that over the last couple of days has been the consolidation of the case management systems into one case management system. What we found was that we had a VOAD case management system, we had a RISE case management system, we had some folks in Commerce who were also engaging with folks, and when you have that, you're going to have some level of confusion. So what I've directed is one case management system that will be managed by the VOAD. They are currently in the process of consolidating today. They've been working yesterday. They plan on, by next week, being able to give the governor and I solid numbers at the end of next week as to how many families that we still have impacted that we need to take care of. In addition to that, I've asked that same group of people to develop a constituent support system, so that as the governor receives or I receive, or you all have provided us some over the past few days, people who have been impacted, we will take those names and we will immediately have a case manager reach out to those families. A couple of examples that we've dealt with over the past 24 hours. There was 3 or 4 that we've identified that we now automatically have in case management. We had an individual in Fayette County who is now stabilized in a hotel while we work through his case management process. This morning was notified that there was an individual that said that the mobile home was there, but they hadn't been given the keys to him. Turns out the power still hadn't been turned on the mobile home, so we got to get the power turned on, and there is a process under the HUD system that requires us to complete certain things in order to be able to do that final turnover. So we're working through all those issues that we had glitches in the staffing process and that piece that we need to manage. I think part of the reason that the governor asked me to do this is because it's not me, it's the National Guard that's providing support to Commerce to get staffing processes in place. To tout the Guard just a little bit, unfortunately, over my tenure in the Guard, we've responded to a lot of emergencies. We're pretty damn good at follow through on staffing process. That's what he's asked me to bring to this situation, and that's what we're doing. A couple of other key things, mitigation dollars as a result of getting this under control. Mitigation dollars on the FEMA side under Director Janetta are now starting to flow too, because of approvals that have come through from FEMA now that they see we've stabilized this piece. So there'll be an announcement from the governor's office later today about some mitigation dollars that will start to be released as a part of that. Some of those are projects, for example, for generators for for water systems. Some of those are the mitigation program for individual homes as well. So that process is moving as well. As I mentioned yesterday, under the HUD project and under what's left of the FEMA project that we still have, we have 2 demolition projects where we'll go in and deal with. Under the FEMA process, it was 19 homes that still did not get taken care of. Under the original demolition, 750-some homes that we did. That contract is back in process and closing out, I think, for bid opening here soon. We'll have a process where we'll be working with purchasing to get the next contract out for demolition, primarily for dilapidated structures in the 12 counties that were impacted by the flood. Part of that is, if you get dilapidated structures down and you get communities cleared up, it helps raise property values and it helps communities rebuild, which is the priority that the governor wants second to taking care of individual families. So we've got that piece. I see Jennifer from Kanawha County. We have a fairly big project in Kanawha County that we'll be meeting with Kanawha County over the next several days to get that piece moving. And that's another big project that will help us revitalize communities that were impacted by the flood. So all those things are going on. I know I've gotten lots of requests to Holly, my public affairs officer, with lots of different questions about things. I guess what I'd ask for everybody, press, legislature, and others, as the governor asked in the press conference the other day, if you guys could give us 30 days, and we will continue to provide you progress updates. So next Friday, when I get back from Challenge Academy graduation, which will be later in the day, we will give you another progress update. That's part of the mandate I've got from the boss to make sure that we get that done as well. And we'll keep you engaged and keep you informed, and as things come up, reach out to us. But please understand, my priority right now is the work, the process is just, this is no different than the immediate response and recovery in a flood. I've got to have my folks focused on that immediate response piece. So if I'm getting a question about something that right now is not a priority in helping me get somebody back into a home or helping us get somebody back into a home as the state of West Virginia, I've got to put it back and work those pieces. So, Governor, I think that pretty well updates us on where we are.
Well, first of all, we're very grateful to have a wonderful general like we have and a wonderful guard. And we're also very grateful for the fact that he's got plenty to do. That's all there is to it. And putting this on top of him, on top of what he's got to do, he's got plenty to do and more to do. I go back though to this, and I want everybody to understand exactly where I am with this. Although sometimes things look like that they may have been something that was not a good blessing, the pause was a very, very good blessing. At that point in time, just think, we couldn't have possibly done anything until after February the 22nd in the first place. And we had people from internal and external, as I've said, that were telling people that they could do things last summer when they couldn't do them. They just plain couldn't do them. And to be as honest as we could all be, whether it be the general and the guard, or whether it be the legislatures, or whether it be people in the governor's office that expand way beyond me or the governor, everyone really thought that things were going along okay. You know, there was not a rumble in the jungle of discontent. You know, everybody thought things were okay. Now, don't anyone ever forget just what I said yesterday, that there's 2 prongs to this thing. The first prong was the FEMA prong that came with all kinds of voluntary contributions and everything, and we knocked it slam out of the park with that. It couldn't have been better. A national model that nobody could believe. And then the second part is the HUD part. And the very people that were involved in the first part were kind of pushed a little to the outside on the second part, and yet we all were led to believe things were okay, and they weren't okay. And so all of a sudden, right in our lap came a $17 million change order. And I said, what in the world is this? You know, and we started digging. And basically the digging saved our state $8 million. Now, or it may end up $7 million, but it's millions and millions of dollars. But you know what the digging uncovered too? The digging uncovered all kinds of inadequacies. And so what did we do? What did we do? We called on our first team to come back into play. And all of a sudden now things are moving, and they're moving really well. No one, you got to always remember, there's no one that has been more concerned and more involved in the flood stuff and the flood victims and the flood relief than me. No way. No possible way. No one cares more. No one's been in the mud more. No one. You know, what happened? You know, what happened was everybody was basically halfway lulled to sleep that things were okay. And you had a lot of people, a lot of voices out in the wilderness that were still hurting. And we discovered it by the pause. Not only did we discover a savings of maybe $7 or $8 million and or more, we discovered the ability maybe to have some of this money, if we don't need it all for housing, move into economic development versus lose it. We could have lost it and everything. But now we've got it. And now we're moving, and we're moving very expediently. And let me just end my little say with this. The governor or the general said, you know, at the Guard, we've handled a lot of disasters and a lot of things like this, and at the Guard, our people are pretty damn good. Do you remember when he said that? I would say they're damn good. That's all there is to it. He doesn't need to say pretty damn good. They're damn good at what they do. And this is going to move, and it's going to move really good. So, I think we got kind of two things. You've heard from the general, you've heard from me. You know, another thing that we want to bring to your attention, and then we'll take questions, and they're completely at almost 180 degrees, but there's something that has happened within West Virginia, and I'm tremendously proud of this, to tell you the truth, because you know how I feel about our coal miners. You know how I feel about the people of West Virginia and us prospering. We're a state that abounds in natural resources. Now, whether it be water or timber or coal or oil or gas, we abound in natural resources, and we should always try to capitalize on the things that are our strengths, and they're our strengths. I've said we need to diversify our economy, and try to build tourism or whatever it may be, manufacturing or whatever, agriculture. But at the same time, we don't ignore the value of our natural resources. So, just to tell it like it is, I kept thinking, okay, now let's, and this is just Jim's words, okay? From the coal side on the thermal side. Thermal coal, steam coal. At one time in West Virginia, I think in the late 1990s, we mined 197 million tons of coal in West Virginia. And when I took office, we were in the 70s. You know, Mark Mukow yesterday said 80s, but 197 million tons. Well, with a coal job becomes all kinds of multiplier jobs beyond belief. You know, you got to haul the coal and clean the coal and buy the chemicals to clean the coal, and you've got to do everything under the sun. You know, there's just all kinds of multiplier jobs. It's phenomenal, the multiplier impact of a coal job. Now, 197 million down into the 70s. Now, I absolutely believe that we're solid metallurgically in West Virginia. And I want to explain this to you so you'll understand it. So bear with me. I believe we're solid metallurgically in West Virginia. Okay, that means that coal goes to make steel. And we have the best coking metallurgical coal in the land. What has happened to us is just this. You know, granted, there were some regulations that have now been removed that will help, and they'll help some. But the thing that will help us more than anything in the world is just this, is in Illinois, the seams of coal are 25 foot high. They're generally very high in sulfur. We could never figure out how to put that coal into one of our power plants because the sulfur was high, and it was in Illinois. How are you going to get it to South Carolina Power and Light? You know, well, the power plants came up with things like scrubbers, and the scrubbers eliminated the sulfur problem. And then from that, we solved the riddle on how to get that coal here transportation-wise. Now keep in mind, you're looking at a 25-foot seam versus a seam of coal that we mine every day. Not me, but well, my companies have. But Chris knows our miners in West Virginia mine every day that it's as high as this desk. So how do you compete with a mine that's mining coal 25 foot high versus mining this coal? To make it one step worse, the Powder River Basin coal is 60 or 80 feet high. And you load that out with a drag line. You know, how are we going to compete with that when we solve the riddle on how to get that, we solve the riddle on getting that coal back to the east? And I'm sitting thinking, and I really thought, if we don't watch out, we're right on the cusp of becoming the next buggy whip industry. You follow what I say? You know, a long time ago, somebody made buggy whips. And then a long time ago, somebody invented the car. And so there was no need for the buggy whips anymore. Are we going to awaken to the point in time from a thermal side that the seams of coal are this high and there's no need for the eastern coal anymore? And that would be horrendously devastating to our state. So I kept thinking, well, what am I going to do? I mean, what can you do? What can you do? Because what can we do to be able to survive? And then it just hit me. And it's as simple as this. If we as a nation get to the point in time where we are solely dependent upon natural gas and coal from the west. Now think about it. And all the pipelines are built. And all the eastern coal fields are gone. They're closed. And it almost happened just a very few years ago. 55 companies declared bankruptcy. It almost happened then. But what if the eastern coal fields are gone? The deep mines flood. The deep mines flood. The surface mines are reclaimed. The coal is sterilized. Sterilized. It is gone. All right, now you've got gas lines that are running all on top of gas lines, and they're going to South Carolina Power and Light and Florida Power and Light and First Energy and everybody else under the sun. The eastern coal fields are gone. There's no need for a coal-fired power plant, especially in the east. The coal fields are gone. And we're bringing coal from the west every day to Duke Power and Southern Company and wherever. Now you got gas lines upon gas lines, and you got coal coming from the west. What if the eastern coal fields are sterilized and they're gone? What if what happens then is some terrible terrorist act happens, that somebody puts a bomb at a junction point of those gas lines and one bomb at a bridge coming from the west. Now, this is exactly the story that I took to the President of the United States. I sat right at his desk in the Oval Office and said, Mr. President, what if this happens? And he looked right at me and he said, God forbid, it could happen, couldn't it? It could. And if it did, the Eastern Power Grid would collapse and be collapsed for months. You would lose millions of people. Millions of people would die. If it happened in the winter, without question, millions would die. And how easy would that be to do? How easy would it be to do? Gas lines run through the mountains all over Kingdom Come. How easy would it be to do to just blow up one bridge and one set of junction points on gas lines? The Eastern Power Grid shuts completely down. When it shuts completely down, absolutely, the stock market would go down 10,000 points on one day. Absolutely, everything. We would lose millions upon millions of people. I said, Mr. President, I have a solution here. We need to create a Homeland Security incentive payment to the power plants in the East to preserve one thing, the eastern coal fields. We need to create an incentive payment to the power companies in the East to be able to, for every ton of Central App or Northern App coal that they buy, they get the incentive payment, which basically makes us competitive, and it makes them not have to, because we can't compete. Now, we just can't compete. Now, you're going to have to make one or two decisions. At some point in time, you're either going to have to say, we're willing to take the risk. And thank God our president is not willing to take the risk. Now, I have beat on that from the day I walked in this office. Chris Hamilton knows it, because he at the Coal Association, they've been there over and over, and I've told him of meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting that I've had with Rick Perry and the president and the economist and everything else. And that amount of subsidy or incentive payment that would have to be paid to the power companies is minuscule. Minuscule. If you paid $10 a ton on every ton of Central App or Northern App coal, it would absolutely ensure that the eastern coal fields would always be here. Not only would it ensure it, it could very well substantially grow our jobs in West Virginia. Now, let's go beyond West Virginia. What are the eastern coal fields? It's Pennsylvania, it's Ohio, it's Virginia, it's Kentucky, it's West Virginia and Tennessee. That's the eastern coal field. Now, what happens if you have a disruption of some kind, no matter what it is? Well, you can put coal in a truck in Kanawha County right here, and you can haul it to Charlotte to Duke Power. Or you can haul it to First Energy, and you can keep those plants going. You can do that today. But you can't put coal in a truck in Wyoming and haul it to Florida. It won't work. Now, I am telling you, and I am telling you as straightforward as I can tell you, this is the stuff your governor does. This is what I'm supposed to do. I am telling you, not only for West Virginia, but truly for our nation. If we don't do this, now there'll be a day, 30 years from today or whenever it may be, there'll be a day that we don't need thermal coal in this country. There'll be a day. But it damn well ain't today. And I'm telling you, if you don't think that that would be a crisis beyond belief, the power went out in New York City in one night. There was 3,500 arrests. One night. You know, I am telling you, if we don't do this, we're exposing our nation like crazy. And the spinoff, the net of the spinoff will help us beyond belief. Now, we just saw it. We just saw the beginnings. There was an announcement, and it is an emergency 202 to where they're going to basically stay and not allow the closure of coal-fired power plants. I think it's 2 years. Is that correct? That's the first part of the whole thing. The next thing is, and I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give you, do we have that stuff, guys? Okay, we got it. Let me have one of them. Let me just have one. Okay, now, where's Pam, Rebecca? Just bear with me just one second. I want to just show you one thing. It's just one page. Mike, could you tell Pam to bring me that coal plan that's on my desk? It's in color. In order to not have the hand the president something like this, this is what I took to him, right here. That's what I took. And it says, how to help West Virginia coal miners. And he's truly, truly dedicated to that. But this was the beginning of everything that I took, right here. Now, I'm going to pass the ball off to Chris. Let you talk a minute, because Chris and Bill Rainey head up our wonderful coal association in the state, and he knows even more about this than maybe I can add. But go ahead, sir. Let me put this over here.
Yeah, let me come over here, join the team.
I'm coming.
I'm proud to be here today with the governor and the general, and proud to be part of their team and efforts. There is a parallel. I'll correct the governor one time and one time only. There is a parallel and direct link between a lot of our flood victims and our coal miners. And a lot are two in the same. These mining families around the state, like our flood victims, and again, many are two in the same. They've had to withstand challenge after challenge over the past decade. That's how long this negative policy's been running now. And these are West Virginia families, West Virginia miners, tens of thousands that wake up every single morning and go to bed every single night wondering if they're going to have a job the next day. And this has been going on for the biggest part of the last decade. And during that period, based solely on market manipulation due to bad, onerous energy policy, we have seen our state's coal production be cut in half. We have lost half of our direct mining jobs here within the state. We're seeing counties that are looking at unemployment rates that exceeded what they experienced during the Great Depression. We're seeing local governments and counties that can't make their payroll. And everybody's well aware of this. Those woes have been well publicized. In the midst of that, we have experienced over 600 coal-fired power plants closed throughout this country. We experienced 18 such closures here in the state of West Virginia. And most of those, based on a recent WVU economic study, demonstrated that there was about $1 billion of overall economic activity associated directly to those individual plants. We're on the verge of seeing major coal-fired plants close in the state of Ohio, Maryland, our own Pleasants plant up in Pleasants County. Again, each of those are associated with billions of dollars, or $1 billion of economic activity, hundreds of direct mining jobs, power. These are basic industrial jobs that pay a lot of money, have a lot of benefits. Last Friday, based on the urging and based on the presentation of the Justice Energy Plan, the President Trump, ordered Energy Secretary Rick Perry to stop the hemorrhaging, to order an immediate order, basically, to cause that no additional plants be lost because of the susceptibility of our energy grid and the reliable delivery of coal-fired electricity to all of our industrial consumers, all of our individual households. And that plan, as the governor said, was clearly the idea, unequivocally the idea of Governor Justice, who's been working with the coal industry, been working with our miners since the day he took office to try to find the appropriate solution or solutions to curtail this major loss to our industrial base and the electrification of Appalachia and the country and the world as we know it and as we're seeing it occur. And that plan, we're just so proud to be part of that. I've been affiliated with the coal mining industry for 40 years, my entire adult life. And I have never, ever, ever seen a plan that has carried so much promise and has caused so much encouragement throughout the coal fields than what this plan that's been hatched right here under our dome by Governor Justice holds for the future of coal mining in this state, coal mining throughout the eastern coal fields, coal mining throughout every aspect and every community that relies on these coal jobs and these very precious coal miners that we have here. We do have the best miners in the world. There's no mistake about that. And they come from all over the world to see how we do it. We're so efficient, we're so productive, we're so safe. And take a look at the sky outside. I am also so pleased to tell you and to challenge anybody that says that burning coal is dirty today. We're right here in dead central of southern coal fields where we rely upwards of 95% of our electricity on coal-fired generation. And look at the sky, look how clear. Our coal-fired utilities have expended billions of dollars of cleaning these airstreams and all contaminants from the burning of coal. Clean coal technologies are here today, and they're at work every single day. And we're just so proud to be part of this. And again, never before in the history of mining has there been a more innovative plan with the potential that this plan has. And we're so thankful that President Trump has taken the plan given to him by Governor Justice and is beginning to run through the federal administration with that plan that has so much promise and hope. Governor, we're so thankful for your help and your efforts, and we look forward to continuing the solid relationship we have with you and your energy staff and your administration going forward. Thank you.
Well, Chris, thank you. I appreciate you more than you'll know. And so we got, Pam, I need you to run a copy of this and put it on top of every one of those, and we'll give them to people, okay? I need a bunch of copies of this, okay? Color copies to that. But, please let us take your questions now.
General Hoyle, what do you say to people that are still living in campers and working on getting through the rise forever, having problems reaching out to keep getting this miscommunication between the contractors and what they're being told? You told us to give you guys 30 days to work through the progress, but what do you say to those people that are still living in campers and waiting and being nowhere?
Well, I think the first thing is, I think I believe those folks understand that the governor's priority and my priority is to get those people taken care of. We are putting processes in place to expedite getting them taken care of in the appropriate case management system that looks at them holistically. Understand too that under the HUD funding, all that pays for is the house itself, and not some of the appliances and the furniture and those things. So part of the reason to put them back into this central case management system is if we can spend more money of HUD dollars on housing and we have donated dollars available to take care of other family needs, we can do a better job of trying to make families as close to whole as we can. I've been doing this for 37 years, and I'm going to tell you that you never make a family whole. There is no possible way to do it, but you do the best you can to try to get them to where you're at. I hope people understand that, and I mentioned this yesterday in the event, the men and women of the National Guard and the people in the state of West Virginia, under the direction of the governor, are going to get this thing moving, and there's a lot of people putting extra effort in. Guard families, because they're taking on extra responsibilities now, are pushing things off. So I hope the best way for me to respond to your question is let people see the actions of what we're doing to get things done. We're going to get things done. Yesterday, we were able to release, because of getting through a staff breakdown, communication breakdown in process, we were able to release 6 more homes for mobile home replacement. Today, I think we're going to get through another process on that environmental piece that's going to allow us to put another 5 into place. And then next week, you're going to see them continue to surge. So I guess I would ask people, as opposed to responding to you with words, is let people look at our actions over the next 30 days and see how we get people taken care of.
But for people that have a communication problem within there, is that going to be an issue will be, I guess, addressed, is what you're saying?
Yes, and we're going to put out, there's going to be one single number that will go out, that will go straight into the BOAD office, that will allow us to understand from people issues that they still have. And we will make sure that that gets out to you guys today.
Yes, sir.
Governor, you said the other day there will be terminations with the Department of Commerce. Have there been terminations? And if not, are those same people that were running the program before, when it came into all this trouble, are they still working with RISE?
There has not been terminations yet. There will be terminations.
Any timeline?
Very soon. Very soon. We want to make sure that it's done as properly as it can possibly be, because that's not going to be something that's going to be very pleasant to people. And but as far as those people that are working, you know, the Commerce people are still working, but they're working. All the flood relief is working through the direction of the general, and you know, he mentioned one thing earlier, and I'm going to get myself in a little bit of trouble saying this, because I don't know this nearly as well as the general. But we had duplications of process and everything, and now what we're going to do is we're going to house, instead of doing duplication of process, which makes it just a mess, you know, we're going to house different processes in different places. And you know, like your case management stuff, to be just at BOAG and BOAG doing that. They did a fabulous job before, and they can really be of incredible assistance to us. So you'll see. I mean, you should know that it's not the general's responsibility in any way to terminate anyone. That comes from the governor's office. But the first thing we need to do is we need to get the processes moving in the right way, and we need to get the people beginning to be helped, and we'll get through the process of whom really on our end really dropped the ball, and we'll handle that from the governor's office.
For the general, how has it been working with Horn? Have you guys figured figured out who the point person will be, and has it seemed like they were cooperating with your office? I know it's only been a few days.
Yes, no, working with the governor's staff, we've got what we believe now is the appropriate structure in place with the Horn contract team. I will tell you, over the past several days, they've been exceptionally responsive. They've merged in with the VOAD team exceptionally well. I would tell you that Jimmy and I have been through a number of these over the years, and we're pretty good. I would say he's very good at the FEMA piece and the FEMA regulations and all that stuff. We're not, and the state of West Virginia has never experienced a HUD project of this size. So we've got to have the appropriate people in place to help us get to that. The other thing is, as the governor pointed out, I'm going to be supporting, we're not moving anything out of Commerce because that impacts our ability to keep on track with HUD. I'm providing oversight at his direction to make sure that we get the process in place. And we'll be talking to the HUD folks later today on that to give them assurances on that piece as well. But I would tell you in the last 48 hours, we got some things cleaned up, and we're moving forward, and we're going to push even harder. There will be weekly staff meetings that will be reporting to me on updates and things, again, in staff processes that in these kind of circumstances are just important to have, and we didn't have that streamlining piece and that communication in place.
What level of involvement will Woody Thrasher and Russell Terry each have with this program at this point?
So I'm still working with the staff process within how we'll be working with Commerce, and we'll finalize some of those things over the next several days, but we'll continue to use the Commerce staff that's in there now as we streamline this process. They have to be a part of that. On the rest of it, you got to give us a few days to sort out where we're at on those pieces.
Yes, sir.
For the governor, I've heard you say Commerce dropped the ball, but I haven't really heard you acknowledge that it is your Commerce Department. I mean, do you accept any blame for the actions of the Commerce Department?
Without any question, you know, you've got to accept responsibility for, and I don't think you've really heard me directly. You know, there were some people that reported I blamed this all on Commerce. That's not true. That's not true at all. I blame this on the fact that all of us, and all of us should take ownership, me included. You know, all of us should. All the people in the governor's office. Honest to Pete, if people said, I said on top of the dome, 24/7, every single second, no one came to me and said, we got a problem here. Really and truly, from the standpoint of external, what was going on externally, if we'd have just kept going, we'd have just thrown away $8 million for absolute certain. So externally, we had a duplication of the process, the case study being done at two different levels, two different ways, and nothing was getting done. People were telling people that, you know, that they were going to, that hammers were going to fly in the next days, and they never flew. You know, from the legislative side, and I'm not casting stones in any way there either, but no one came to my office and said, Governor, there's a problem. There's a problem. And so absolutely, I'm your governor. I take responsibility for any and all. But I am telling you, there's a lot of antennas that could have gone up in a lot of ways that could have assisted the governor and told the governor, said, Governor, we got a problem. The second that I was told we had a problem, look what I did. Look what I did. The very second. Yes, sir, yes, sir.
Well, Tim Armstead heard you say similar comments yesterday. He was pretty upset. He claims that he did meet with you in November to raise some of these concerns with you, and was taken aback to hear you say that no one from the legislature warned us of this. Is that accurate?
Well, I mean, Jake, here's the thing. You know, I don't remember a meeting with Tim Armstead in November at all, you know. And if all we're trying to accomplish here is to create a food fight or try to decide, are we going to fire Woody Thrasher or not? You know, I mean, is that really what we should be doing? I mean, really and truly what we should be doing is identifying that we had a problem and we're fixing it. And we're fixing it in the very, very best way that you could possibly do that. And there's a coal idea here that could impact tens of thousands of our people. And we're worried whether or not I'm going to fire Woody Thrasher, or whether or not Tim Armstead said he came to me and talked and he's offended. I mean, if really and truly everybody in the legislature, let's be fair, if everybody in the legislature, or there were people that thought that this was absolutely a crisis, why didn't they come and see me every day? Why didn't they come and holler at me every day? You know, I mean, somebody can say, aha, wait a minute, I mentioned that a year ago to you. Well, for crying out loud, in my world, if you got a real problem, if I got a problem with what you're doing and whatever like that, I'm going to be on your doorstep every minute, every single minute. The reality is, and it's just as true as it can be, this man thought things were okay. The guard thought things were okay. The legislature thought things were okay. I thought things were okay. All the people in my office thought things were okay. They weren't. They weren't. Yes, sir.
But Woody Thrasher's over the department. Wouldn't he be the first person to tell you things are not okay? And if he didn't do that, what would you do?
Well, that's a real problem. And I told you we're going to get to that. That is a real serious problem. There's no question that there are areas of this where commerce really dropped the ball. Yes, Brad.
I'm actually still trying to figure out, maybe I'm still on the update, I'm trying to figure out in what way things weren't okay. And to review, the contract that caused the pause now is, I think, back in effect, but $8 million down from where it was. We know that HUD gave the approval to start using that money in late February.
Right.
Was the actual problem then a matter of communication with the public and raised expectations that this money would be used sooner?
So one of the things that we found in looking was that there were 300 authorizations for homes that were stuck in the process step related to the environmental review. As we looked at that to understand what was causing that delay in the environmental review, there were a couple of things that we found. One was related to a requirement to do the archaeological and other requirements under the HUD process that you have to sign off on. Even though you're putting the home back in the same spot, there is a requirement to sign off on some things through the process with the SHPO and with that piece. There is also a process in the HUD system to require a sign off from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, for even though something's going back in the same spot. As we broke that down and looked, we had some approval from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for their piece of it that didn't get communicated across the staff process to allow those to be put in the process for actual homes to start move into replacement. There were some things related to documents and approvals of people from the contractor that didn't get communicated back to the SHPO office effectively. So once was able to break those things loose yesterday, we were able to sign off on the first 6 to get those out and get those moving. There's others in process. So there were breakdown in staff and communication processes that I believe caused the breakdown that slowed the process. And those are the things that I'm responsible for working now to make sure to get in place and get fixed. And you know, I'm not focused on who did what to who or what happened in the past. My job right now is to focus on fixing staff processes so this thing gets moving, so I can go and look the governor in the eye and say, we are taking care of people.
Well, it seems like RISE obviously is moving forward, getting things fixed. We're also hearing that there's some issues with the FEMA money, especially in the cities that maybe, project worksheets weren't filled out properly, and, the cities could then be on the hook to have to pay the money back if they're not filled out properly. So is that maybe a breakdown in Jimmy's office with DMAPs, or have you heard of any concern from city leaders?
Is Jimmy still in here? Jimmy, come up here and you can answer this question the best. I can tell you from 80,000 feet that if the processes are not done absolutely correctly, you could get in a situation where you have to pay the money back.
Well, exactly. And that's why you obviously did the pause, so that the state didn't end up with that request.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, so...
That's dead on the money. You are splitting the bullseye right there. I mean, that is exactly one of the reasons for the pause. For crying out loud, if we're doing stuff wrong, or people are taking advantage of us and there's waste, then you had to do something. You couldn't just say, oh, okay, well, let's just keep on going like we're going, or let's go over and check on a few things and everything else. Go ahead, Jim.
I couldn't hear the question back there.
So, obviously part of the reason for the pause of RISE was so that the state, if something wasn't done properly, wouldn't be on the hook to pay the money back. We're hearing that from some cities that were impacted by the flood, that basically they're almost having the same thing with the FEMA, that, they're concerned about issues with their project worksheets. They don't want to get stuck being on the hook for paying the money back, and they make it seem like there's some delay. Is there some sort of a similar pause going on with your office, or do you know what maybe the holdup is at this point?
No, we don't have anything under pause. We have a few project worksheets where the sub-applicants have made appeals. One is Nicholas County Schools, where FEMA denied to pay them for additional cost for transportation where the schools have been moved. There's a couple in Richwood where FEMA's looking at damage that occurred prior to the flood. So those are the kind of routine things we deal with, but we work through those. But there's nothing held up that I'm aware of with FEMA.
We heard the city of Clondon and every project worksheet for the city is on hold.
Not that I'm aware of. What information we saw is FEMA has written all the project worksheets. There were some awards made. They've got to work with the mayor. Apparently, they've not put out some contracts. The other thing that you have to remember that's different with public assistance, it's a reimbursement grant. So the cities have to pay, or cities or counties or whoever have to pay all the bills and then submit those, and then FEMA reimburses after closeout and they review those. So we have some local jurisdictions that don't have the funds. So we're trying to work with them to get the funds so they can pay the bills and close those projects out.
And I think something else that might be important to understand, we still have flood open from 6 years ago. It's a long process to close these out over time, and the same thing is going to hold true with this HUD piece. It's going to be several years for us to close everything out, do the appropriate audits, all those things. So it's a long process to get to because of the nature of bureaucracy that's put in place to protect things as far as misappropriation of dollars.
Yes, sir.
Wait, I have one from out of left field, but you got a RISE question?
I do. All right. General Hoyer, I was trying to listen carefully to your explanation of what I convert kinks in the line that slow things down.
Yeah.
And what I wonder is, if you step back from that, would you have prescribed some sort of more centralized operation, like what appears to be taking shape now, or were there just groups and people who were not communicating properly?
I think from the miscommunication that occurred with various people about eligibility and things of that nature, clearly the consolidated case management system was the thing that would have helped prevent that piece of it. From the other things that we found related to the environmental and the lack of communication, or that piece, that's more of a staffing process piece. And understand, I come from 37 years of we're drummed staff processes into us to the point that sometimes we get too far out. You know, I've said several times, one of the worst things that ever happened to the United States military was the development of PowerPoint. Because now we try to fit operations on PowerPoint slides, but we are good at staff processing and follow through. And so we're gonna ingrain in this the same processes we use in the emergency response piece, which has the whole series of loops and checks and balances of follow-up and follow-through. And even then, we miss some things. But I think you're right, there were kinks that got into the system, some of them communication pieces. I'm not finding anything, you know, that other than communications and staffing processes that got us off track. And I think we can get those, and we have gotten those moved forward, thus the fact that we were able to release for replacement 6 mobile home units yesterday.
Did the kinks lead to a delay in formal HUD approval to use those funds, or were they after or both?
I guess the answer to that is it delayed the ability to draw down the approved HUD dollars because you have to complete all the steps in the process before you can start to draw down the dollars. Until we can start to draw down the dollars, we can't release to a contractor the ability to bring a mobile home or to start building a home because they've got to go out and purchase materials and do those things. So yes, because of that piece of it, it created a delay in the approval process to allow us to release HUD dollars to start the actual either construction or replacement of the home.
I'm sorry for the bureaucratic nature of my questions, but it's a bureaucratic problem. Are these fire defenses?
My job is to focus on the staff processes and provide all that to the governor and the staff, and I don't think it's a question for me to address.
To follow on that, so you're saying that conceivably, if these communications were better handled and there was better chain of command here, that February 20th date for HUD approval could have been earlier in the process?
No, I'm talking about after the HUD approval process, the release of dollars and the process to start from that point forward. Yeah. And I'll try as best I can to answer questions along the way and understand I still have a responsibility to him to run the National Guard, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now. And number two, the more I have to, I'm not, no disrespect, but the more I have to sit and answer questions, the less I can go out and get done what I need to get done. So.
Wait just one second, Jay. Let me, and I'll get back to you in just a second. But let me just comment on this, is in sitting, once we identify there's a real problem here. And we do have fireable offenses, that's for sure. And so if we have that and we want this process to keep moving, we want it to get going, that's why the general's here. I mean, if basically what you did was you let some people go, you had to find somebody that would work within the HUD arena and bring in and start all over. It may take months to get things moving. And I know there's lots of stuff going on all over the world, but this was the best way. This was a consensus of Jimmy and Neighbors Loving Neighbors, the lady that helped with everything in the world there, and Jenny at VOAD, and the general. And this was basically the way that we could get it moving and get it moving the fastest. Now, I'll say one other thing, and this is when I just started to jump up and down, is you got a $17 million change order that was approved without it going through the proper channels, and And really and truly, the next thing that we found is we hadn't really built a house yet. For crying out loud. You know, you've got problems all over the place, externally and internally. And somebody had to act, and that's what I did. Yes, sir, I'll answer your question.
This is from out of left field, but Patrick Morris here, Joe Manchin. Picking one?
Gosh, man, Jake, you are absolutely the best. You know? I mean, no, I'm gonna leave that alone for right now. But I got way bigger fish to fry, you know, and we'll see on that one.
One last Rise question, just so we can recap and understand for viewers tonight that are watching this or somehow watching it who are still living in a camper, there will be a phone number coming out that they can call if they get in the runaround?
Yes. Yeah, we'll get you the phone number. You can get with Holly, and Holly can get that to you. The other thing I'll point out to you, there were, I think, 4 or 5 cases brought to us by you guys within the press. The ones that we got from you guys so far, I was told that as of yesterday, VOAD has reached out to all those individuals to begin to work assistance processes. For example, there was a gentleman who was a veteran from Fayette County who, as I understand it right now, VOAD has helped put in available accommodations. We've already engaged with the folks at Beckley VA. There's a lady by the name of Stacy Vasquez who runs Beckley VA, who I'll tell you is one of the top in the country. They're working with that individual. Others that have come to us, and we'll do the same with those. Again, the direction is pretty clear from the boss. Take care of people, and as we find them. And I will tell you, in the magnitude of this flood, I spent time at Katrina, and they're still recovering from Katrina. So the magnitude of this flood, we're going to have cases, and we're going to have some situations where there are people that are going to come to you guys and come to us and say, hey, I still haven't got help, who might not be eligible. So what I've got to do on behalf of the governor is we, as a team, have to be honest with those folks and let them know. And again, for consolidated case management, as of yesterday evening, the initial numbers are there's probably 180 some folks that won't meet the eligibility for HUD that we'll still take care of under this great program that we did with VOAD and Neighbors Loving Neighbors, and continue to work to help people how we can there.
And if some people are touchy about personnel stuff, are you going to tell us who you fire?
Well, I think you'll know that. Yeah.
I think yesterday, yesterday when you were asked about the out offer stuff, you hadn't seen the plane, and you had time. You have any thoughts on the out offer?
My thought, that I expressed yesterday was exactly the same. I guess the process will tell us guilt or not guilt. But irregardless, it's a sad day for West Virginia because it draws a spotlight of negativity on West Virginia, and that's not good.
Would it be better for him to resign to get that negative spotlight?
I can't answer that. I really don't know. I think that's a decision that he needs to make, and the process, we'll have to let the process go through. Let me say this one thing, and this disappoints me and you but I've got to say this on behalf of our coal miners. Our coal miners and our coal miner families have been through hell and back for what this man says is a decade, and we have a plan here that is honestly could be the saving of a lot of coal miners and their families. And you haven't asked a question about that, and I'm okay with that. But with respect to them, you know, we should celebrate for them because they feel like they're, you know, can you just imagine if your dad's 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 dad or mom worked in the coal industry forever, and that's all you really know how to do, and you're sitting at home, or you have been, and you just really wonder if you're just not completely forgotten. Not only maybe not appreciated, but forgotten. And that is one terribly lonely feeling. And so you don't have to ask any questions, but don't forget them. This is a really, really, really good plan.
Is there anything procedurally else that needs to happen for it to be designated as a national security?
I mean, the president has still got work to do, and you can read through and everything else, but the idea is there, and they're enacting that idea. I mean, I will promise you this, and I think Chris would follow up and say exactly this, but for those people at the Pleasance Power Plant, when they're going to be driving into work day after day after day, if we hadn't done this, they wouldn't be going to work. You know, but there's so much more to it than just those people at a coal-fired power plant. This is, we just don't need to forget those people. Those people are good people, and I love them with all my soul. Okay, we're done. Thank y'all.
Thanks.